Hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of Subscription Scaled. I'm your host, Nick Frederick. With me today is Eric Schmitz, who is the president at California Athletic Clubs. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nick. Good talking with you.
Awesome. Well, as you and I were just talking about a second ago, it's not often we get to bring somebody on who's been in an industry that has been in for subscription literally for decades. I mean, this is one of the OG subscription businesses, athletic clubs, right up there with AAA and magazines and things like that. So excited to dive into that today.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The athletic health club field, we were sort of one of the founders of, having to resell your customers every month to want to buy your business. And being in the industry about 35 years, I've done everything and learned a lot about the membership subscription model, what works, what doesn't work, and how it can be a great way to run a business. And probably one thing that's a little bit different is that obviously, right, we're brick and mortar subscription businesses. We're not online, so that can be different. But I think when it comes down to it, if you're offering your niche market the value that they're looking for, you're going to get retention or repeat customers. In our industry, that's like a main thing, right? Because the cost of customer acquisition is much higher than maintaining a customer. So we look at retention as like one of the main KPIs that we're monitoring from a month-to-month basis. And we're fortunate in that within our industry, probably over the last maybe 8 years, it's sort of bifurcated where there's high price point and low price point. Anything in the middle sort of didn't really work out. We're on the high end, and we're one that sort of unlike some subscription models where, if you don't really use it, it's not that big of a deal. That's a lot of times in the low price model of the athletic club business. That's sort of what they're hoping for. Yep. They're selling, 6,000 memberships to a small, fitness place, and they're really hoping that you don't go. We're the total opposite. Okay. Our prices range from $79 to $330 based on what type of membership. And we really want people to utilize their membership because the more they use it, the more there's the more higher level of engagement, the more they're going to retain. You're going to retain them, and that for us, that's sort of the name of the game. Is can you get to that level of retention? Our industry wide, it's probably around 60 to 65%, and we're higher just because we're a higher price point. That's inherent with a higher price point. You're going to get higher retention, and the types of things that we offer are definitely higher retention.
Okay. Before we dive any further into that, and there's a lot we can unpack there, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you came to be at California Athletic Club?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I was going to school at University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm a Badger. And early on, I didn't know for sure what I wanted to do. I know it was sort of something related to medicine, the body. And I was walking through a building on campus one spring, and I saw this flyer for a triathlon. So back then, that had to be 1985. It was sort of new. And I'm like, wow, that seems interesting. So I totally got ready. I trained for the triathlon. It was a local triathlon in a lake in Madison. And then you ran and biked around the lake. And I did it and really enjoyed it. And then I was sort of that next fall figuring, okay, what am I going to do in school? And I found that campus that I was at had a program in exercise science or exercise physiology. So I got a degree in that, was really active in doing triathlons. And at that time, it was really big in California. So right after school, I had a really good friend that had moved to California earlier. I moved to California and situated in Santa Barbara, started doing triathlons, went to work in an athletic club, and then just have sort of over the years done everything and sort of moved up the ladder in the way of management. I started on the fitness floor. Now I work as president of 7 athletic clubs. And it's interesting. it's just sort of like you think of a canned response, but it's so true. Like working in the field that I work in, you can have such a positive effect on people's lives that like literally that's why so many people sort of stay in this profession, right? There's been a lot of growth in health and fitness prior to COVID. COVID really decimated our industry to where 25% of clubs like permanently closed by the end of 2021. And more so with studios at higher percent closing. We were lucky in that we have a lot of outdoor space for tennis, swim, fitness, so it didn't affect us that much. So I just sort of stayed in an industry that I really liked. I loved being of service. And just sort of, so like on a larger scale, I'm sort of doing what I started, literally helping people and being of service. And back to no matter what subscription model you have, if you have that fundamental core value of being of service, that is so valuable to the extent where our organization is super values driven. We really try to stay focused on our values and make the decisions of our operations on values. And again, it seems sort of like this canned, in response, but in a subscription business, if it's just online, that would be sort of tough to do, right? Like, how are you going to do that? It would be easier to do in our type of subscription business where you're interacting with people and, there's a lot of additional chances to show your values. So yeah, just working in this industry, have done everything, have seen it gone through a lot of growth and have seen tons of additional players come into this field, large venture capital that are sort of trying to take advantage of, if you have a successful fitness business, it can be good. So we've really tried to be authentic and really taking care of our employees and basically sort of being like the local club, almost like a Cheers feel, right? Where you're getting really good, you're getting taken care of really well by the membership team, the employees. Yeah. So, ultimately it's all about relationships.
Yeah. It feels like this was one of the earliest definitions of the words membership club, where it is that club feel, right? You're a part of something, you're a member. Yes, it's a recurring relationship, you're paying every month or whatever, but you feel like you're a part of something, right?
Right. And that is the main determinant of retention, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously, again, because we're brick and mortar, it would be easier for us to create an experience, an environment that allows our members to connect with each other and be part of a community. But that would be something, obviously, all subscription businesses, like, how can you do that in your niche, in your way to increase engagement? Online, it's different, but like just that fundamental need of humans being part of a group, being part of a tribe is sort of like the driver of like our business model.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to something you said a few minutes ago about you were talking about price point and how you guys sit at the high end and then there's this lower end of things. I think probably for a lot of people when they first think about athletic clubs or fitness clubs, they probably think of that low end in most cases, right? The ones that are national or regional and they come in and it's like what, $5 to join and $10 a month or something really low.
Or nothing.
Or nothing, right. And, high pressure sales and then, of course, extremely difficult to cancel has always been the perception in that space. Can you talk a little bit about that, about why you think that is and kind of their model versus what you guys are doing at California Athletic Clubs?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I ask myself sometimes, why are they doing it? Why are they creating so much friction in the cancellation process, as well as just sort of like how they operate? And in a lot of ways, some of the real low price fitness models, like literally it's like a fitness laundromat, right? Where you're just going in, there's minimal staffing. Probably they're making, or their business model is based on human nature in that everyone has great intentions to exercise regularly, but like 80% don't. It's like the 80-20, 20% of the population is actively exercising. Everyone knows we're exercising. The 80% that don't, that would be sort of like easy sell to get that person to consistently renew, because it's at such a low price point. That's why it's priced so low that, you're not even concerned with it going on because you think you're going to use it in the future. Mm-hmm. And, I think that, right, like I talked about earlier, there is a big difference between sort of some of the, things that happen within this industry with low price point versus the higher end boutique places. A lot of people have had bad experiences with the low price point because of the things that you mentioned, making it really hard to cancel. It's ACH only. You can't use credit card, not great customer service. And, why they do it, I would think that they're doing it to sell the franchises, right? And I think certain franchises are successful within their organization. Some aren't. I think it's all to scale, right? It's all like you have to have so many members to go, or to sign up, and then they just make it hard to quit. Yeah. And I disagree with that business model. It works for a lot of fitness clubs. They do that. But again, we're completely opposite. We're month to month, where you just need to give 30 days cancellation notice. We try to make it as frictionless as possible. But at the same time, we do want to have some interaction with that individual before they cancel, just to find out, like, hey, where did we go wrong? Are there things that we could have done differently or could do differently now to get you back on your routine of exercise? As we all know, everyone should do it. And on the one thing that we also do that is interesting, that we've had a lot of success with, is from a standpoint of customer feedback. We use sort of an offshoot of Medallia. Medallia is like the one of the main players in NPS and customer experience management. So we use that for the fitness industry and have great success finding out, like, what are the things that we need to do to change based on what our customers want. And that would be a recommendation to all subscription businesses. Like, how are you getting feedback from your customers? And then are you sort of humble enough to look at it objectively and sort of change sort of to what they want, obviously without it hurting the business, right? You need to be open-minded.
Yeah.
And that would apply to any, it's not just put it up there and think it's going to work. You have to actively be managing it.
Right. Well, every time we talk about customer feedback here, I always follow that up with, how are you gathering the feedback and why do you trust it also? Right. Because I've seen before, these questionnaires that are put in a cancel flow that are sometimes put in the end of, a couple of save options. And by the time your customer gets there, they're probably pissed off and they're just clicking buttons, right? So who knows what feedback you're actually getting. So how are you guys gathering that?
So this company, this offshoot of Medallia called MXM, what we do is a survey, a digital survey, online survey is sent every 90 days to someone that's actively using the membership. So they have to be checking in at the front desk prior to working out.
All right.
So you're getting like, you're actively using customers. You're not getting, the ones that aren't using it. And then there's a, short questionnaire that it allows them to rate, all areas of the business, including NPS, cleanliness, friendliness, all the different departments. And then we look at the data in aggregate over time. How are we doing compared to last year? What we usually look 90 days back. And then, what are the things that we can legitimately change to make our business better? And what are like the no-goes, right? Because you're going to get people that are asking for things out of the world. But one thing that's great about having like closing the loop as it relates to getting feedback and solving the problem is, 99% of the time, the members that actually get, even if it's a digital response back from the general manager, that they have taken time to listen to what their problem is, their concern is, their suggestion is, and that they're actually taking action on it. Like, that is huge in building relationships and, again, stickiness and getting more engagement. So I couldn't, there are so many tools that you can utilize NPS on, and, is NPS sort of outdated? So one could argue that, right? but just having that response back. Like, here's a perfect example that I went through. I purchased some clothes online. I mean, this really isn't necessarily a subscription thing, but the reason why I'm saying is, like, there was a problem. I have not gotten my order. I'm like, wait, what's going on? I'm trying to find out the tracking and everything. And I sent an email. It was like just to support. And the person got back within like 15 minutes and was like really nice in the email and really personable. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. I can understand. And they accepted what the problem was, like, hey, we really screwed up type thing. So just even, in this world, everyone's going to get most people are going to get their messages back digitally. Just having that communication, being professional with the communication. And again, with the online subscription stuff, that could be hard sometimes. Right? Like, what is your system to do that? How, are you making sure you're doing that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And are you making sure you're doing that? Because that's where you're going to get referrals, right?
Absolutely.
For our industry, that's like the biggest source of new business is referrals. Mm-hmm. Hey, come to a XYZ club. They're really nice to me there, and I think you'd like it. So we save a lot on marketing just by using, having referrals be a big part of our new member acquisition.
Are there any incentives there for existing members to make referrals?
Yeah, usually the one that we've had the most success with would be, we would sort of like partner with a local restaurant, purchase a certain amount of like gift certificates at that restaurant at a discount, knowing the demographics of our clubs would work well, right, in their restaurants.
Yeah.
And then if you would refer your friend and they join, you could get a gift certificate to a local restaurant. Trying to keep it local.
Yeah.
They see, wow, you guys have good demographics. Yeah, that would be great if they could come in, and have dinner. So that one, I mean, we've tried a lot of different things, and the industry tries a lot of things, but that one, for whatever reason, is really sticky, and people really like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's pretty creative too.
Yeah.
To think of that's great for them, right? These are people who then come into their restaurant, and maybe some of them are new. They get to like it, and of course become repeat customers. Any other sort of partnerships like that you guys have looked into?
We've done some with like the restaurants, local like organic food places. The other thing is like swag, t-shirts, branding stuff for your location, with a gym bag, if you refer, you get that. Another one that has also been effective is, your friend joins, we'll give you like a $5 dues credit per month as long as your friend still remains a member. So like you're getting a discount, and that's an incentive to be working out with your friend, sure, for you guys to have fun together. Mm-hmm. And then you can just get a little credit on your dues as long as your friend stays a member. That's worked well too. That's probably been the second most successful one we've done over the years.
Yeah, that one makes a lot of sense. I think there was a mobile phone company that did something pretty similar, right? Where, you could keep getting a discount for every person you referred on an ongoing basis as long as they stayed a member. But I mean, what better way to to incentivize evangelists than to be like, you can continue working this down. Well, if you bring on 100 people, hey, that's benefits for everybody, right?
Right, and that's what you'll get. You'll get the people that are your main, you're in Medallion, we call them the main promoters, right? They're just like telling everybody how great it is. And, so it works really well.
Yeah. Go back to a second. You were talking about the survey that goes out to active users every 90 days. So you're looking at your engaged customers and seeking feedback from them. What about disengaged customers?
Yeah. So what we'll do there is we'll send out communications monthly based on, here are all the things that are going on. We can also send, this is like a good question because, right, do you wake the sleeping dog, right? Do you want to actively be communicating with the people that aren't using your business? Two things. One of the things that's been most effective when we'll do that, non-user campaign is you'll sort of like, it'll come from the manager or like the department head of the department of the program we're offering. Like, hey, Mr. Smith, just to let you know that we're going to do like a 30-day, simple exercise and nutrition program. It's starting September 15th. We would love to have you come aboard, for our loyal members, we'll give you a discount. So it's not like saying, wait, you're not using it. Like what's wrong? It's like inviting them to be part of the community and hopefully get them over the hump of not being active by, by personalizing it.
Right. I mean, yes, they're the sleeping dead, but the reality is at some point they're going to cancel, right? They'll figure it out. They'll remember they'll get reminded some way and they're going to cancel. So better off to
Right.
try to engage with them, get them into that active user base than to just wait for the day that they're going to cancel. Right.
Right. And it's definitely, and one thing is that talking about like zombie revenue or like, COVID, like cleaned that out, obviously, like unbelievably.
Yeah.
Like everyone, just like where everyone was at, like in California, we were closed for only about 2 months and we had outside stuff. But yeah, like a lot, but in some ways that was good because you did have the non-users. Yeah, they're still paying, but like, right. It's like, how long are they going to stay? So a lot of those people left. So we're, our check-ins are up, usage is up. We're like on some of these clubs, we're like above pre-COVID levels because you don't want, we're so opposite of that high volume HVLP, high volume, low price model that literally doesn't want you to work out. I mean, that's sort of stereotypical of that model. Not everyone does that. We want everyone to use the facility, to be exercising, to be around their community. And that's even more important than ever post-COVID, right? To be connected to your community of a place where you can feel comfortable. And, it's not like you're having this in-depth relationship, but you just see your friends and, in a healthy place, post-COVID is like super important.
Well, I mean, to that point, what percentage of the workforce, I don't know this number, that went from working in an office to working either permanently at home or in a hybrid situation, right? And that social interaction isn't what it used to be. And I think this is a good example of the type of thing where, this is where they're getting it now, right? This is a big part of community.
Exactly. And what's interesting is I'm in sort of like a business roundtable, and some of the clubs that have tons of square footage indoors are converting maybe space that really wasn't utilized a lot to have it be sort of work from home space. So if people are working remotely, that's also a place where an opportunity for us to, increase member usage because everyone wants to exercise, right? Everyone needs to exercise. Not everyone wants to. But then having a shared workspace, so that connection or being around people, but not necessarily being in the office is an option. And people actually really have responded well to that.
Wow, that's a pretty innovative idea. I mean, that kind of takes that one step further, brings them in not only for the community of the facility itself, but, taking that a step further and say, hey, work here too, right? That's quite a concept.
Yeah, it's sort of like mini WeWorks in clubs, that have enough square footage.
Yeah.
And clubs are doing it a little bit differently, but they're having great success with it. Because it makes sense. I mean, because then if you have food service, they're going to eat there and drink there. So it's a good thing from a business standpoint too.
Right. We talked about COVID a little bit there, and you said it kind of wiped out a lot of the dormant customers. Take us a little bit deeper into that. I mean, what were you seeing in terms of your engaged customers? Were they like, as soon as I can get the opportunity to go back, the restrictions get lifted, I want to come back right away, so therefore I'm going to keep my membership going? Or what did you see your customer base doing through that time?
That's a great question. What we saw, which was surprising, was we have such good retention, and our staff takes care of our members so well that a lot of the members, even when we were shut down, continue to pay the dues for the health of the business to make sure that the employees got paid. That was really good.
Yeah.
And then, then you're getting your less cautious or less worried about COVID people that, are super into exercise. Obviously those people came back the quickest. But also in California, fortunate to have climate that allowed us to move a lot of our fitness equipment outside. So that was huge for getting more people to come back quicker because they felt safe outside in order to exercise. COVID was really not an issue. And then also we had, outdoor swimming pools and outdoor tennis. So again, we were lucky. And I think, even it's interesting. I'll look at all the Medallia surveys of all the clubs. And even to today, there are some people that haven't come back because they're worried about COVID, elderly or, like secondary medical conditions. Because if you think about it, for our industry, there literally could have been nothing worse than COVID, right? Like, are you kidding me? Like, okay, right. There's an airborne virus. And your business is, they think of like a spinning studio, like, okay, you're going to work out as hard as you can and there's going to be people close to you. Yeah. So yeah, as an industry, like, wow, like it was tough. So of the clubs that were adaptable and could pivot and not, freak out too much, that really served them well during COVID. And then, yeah, you had your early adopters of coming back to the club as quick as possible. Either, weren't, sort of tied, weren't as into COVID as, the messaging, or weren't as concerned with it. And then the people slowly came back. But again, we were super fortunate because we had a lot of stuff outside, which was unusual for clubs. A lot of clubs, weren't able to do that.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because every time I feel like I ask that question on the show, especially to e-commerce subscription merchants, it was COVID was a boon, right? Everything went online, and
right.
all of our subscription products started flying off the shelves or whatever, our services. But that was probably a very unique challenge for you. But I thought it was very interesting that you had customers who wanted to keep paying just to know that your club was going to make it through and be there on the other side, because to your point, so many ended up closing and not making it through that. Those are some very interesting stats there.
Yeah, just really good customer engagement. And it's interesting within our industry, the subscription aspects of fitness, obviously that really increased over COVID. And like Peloton's a perfect example, right? They could do nothing wrong during COVID, but subsequently it's been a big challenge because they felt that the traditional fitness industry was going to completely die, that it wasn't going to exist at all. But time has shown that wasn't true, that human interaction, human connection, like within proximity of each other, like the value of that is like huge. Nothing against Peloton, but compared to, doing all of your workouts just from a video screen, that's like a big difference. So yeah, all of the obviously the digital subscription fitness services that exploded during COVID, and it's still going well, but it's like some of them drop down because like there are definitely more answers than just doing fitness digitally.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like working from home, there were people that wanted to do that, were happy with that, want to keep doing that. And then there were others who wanted to come back in. I think probably in your industry, and Peloton is a good example of that, people did that out of necessity, right? Because that was about the only option, or one of the few options to state it. But that wasn't never the long-term plan for them. It was just none of us knew when this was going to end. So that seemed like the best plan for a while. Right. So that trajectory that they were on was never sustainable for the long term.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I should have sold my stock earlier. No.
Right. Well, so you've been doing subscriptions for 35 years. Let's touch on a couple of lessons that you've learned along the way, and some of the things that make running a subscription recurring revenue business different from a transactional model. Can you highlight some of those lessons for us?
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I think fundamentally, you have to deliver the value commensurate with what you're charging. And to do that from our industry can be challenging and very expensive, right? To run clubs can be very expensive. But so you have to have the value, right? You have to be listening to the feedback from your, customers. And then you have to be, in sort of that mindset of Kana, you have to constantly be improving what you're offering in order to keep yourself relevant on your customer's mind, to keep adding to the value. Because if you think about it, we've always had to resell what you're doing every month. So in addition to those things, because we're brick and mortar, focusing on developing a super, customer and employee centric culture where you can have great employees be successful, is just going to add to that, sort of the renewal aspect of it. I would say innovation too, being open to what are the trends and how do the trends within your industry fit to the niche market that you're going to, and that a lot of the trends or a lot of the, follow the next big thing might not be the best path to go to, really vet what you're doing, vet what you're trying. Oh, one thing that we do that's really interesting is we'll do what are called rifle shots. We just call them rifle shots. It's where you would try something new and not have a high cost to the new thing to really see how it goes. And then if you get good feedback and if it's going well, then invest deeply in it. And you could do that with any subscription business, right? Mm-hmm. Find something additional that you could sell to your customers, not go all in, but testing things out to see, if it's working, and then invest heavily if it's successful to try to get, more revenue per month per customer.
Absolutely. I mean, I talk about that all the time. I've seen many others as well talk about these, do small tests, right? Don't go all in until you've got some data to support it. Do you have any example there of something that worked that you started with a kind of a small group and blew it out?
Oh yeah, this would be a good one. I mean, it's sort of a trend, industry trend, but in the tennis world, right? Tennis has been around forever. It's sort of been flat. And so we're actively converting tennis courts to pickleball courts. So pickleball has been on the rise.
I knew that's where you were going.
We sort of held a little bit, but it's definitely growing. And the good thing about pickleball is it brings in a slightly different or it has the opportunity to bring a slightly different customer because, bigger audience, low barrier to entry, quick escalation to be able to play effectively. So we started out by just doing one court at one club, seeing how it's gone, and then learn from what we did, and then push that out to all the other clubs, knowing that, tennis, actually COVID was good for tennis because it really helped tennis, because people were able to play out. I mean, especially if you have outdoor courts, play outside and be far away from each other. So that wasn't, tennis got better as a result of COVID, but just this pickleball craze of, it's just different. It's a different animal, but it's definitely grown. And after testing it out at, a couple clubs, we're bringing it across all the clubs.
Really? Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it's an addictive sport. I've done it a few times. I was a tennis player before, but pickleball and you can bring so many people into it. It's fun to play in doubles. It's definitely interesting. You were talking about,
and for our business where
no, go ahead, Eric.
Well, I was saying, and I can't think immediately how this could transfer to existing subscription because it's more of a real estate thing. But on a normal tennis court, you can only have doubles, you can have 4 people. But on most tennis courts, you can convert it to 4 pickleball courts. So then you have 16 people utilizing the same real estate. So you can, up the number of members that you have. Again, how that could relate to a subscription business, I don't know. But that's just you wouldn't think of it as a thing, but that's a huge thing because tennis courts take up 7,500 square feet. So they take up a lot of space. And that's just a great thing. Yeah.
Do you guys do fitness and tennis memberships separate or fitness with tennis, or is it one fee for kind of the whole facility?
Yeah. So we do a little bit traditional pricing model at these clubs in that we will have tiered pricing, right? we'll have, swim and health, which would be swim and fitness as the bottom end pricing. And then depending upon the club, about how much of a pickleball program we would have pickleball be the middle tier. Okay. And then the high tier would be tennis. And then each tier would have, single couple family within that tier. Gotcha. That's sort of like the traditional pricing model of, health and fit, tennis, health and fitness clubs. Then we do, then we'll do, what we call non-dues revenue, tennis lessons, swim lessons, camp, personal training, all those things in addition to, the dues. And the dues are sort of like the bread and butter of our business because there's not tons of payroll directly associated with those dues. Where if you have non-dues revenue, personal training stuff, you obviously have to pay a good commission to keep good people. But when you have a customer that is, really sticky and utilizing non-dues revenue, swim lessons, tennis lessons, personal training, they're always going to stay longer because you create, more and deeper relationships with the staff. So that's like the best thing, the more non-dues revenue you can have.
Yeah, absolutely. To your point, though, there is high labor costs typically associated with delivering that. But I'm curious, too, one of the things that I love about subscription and transactional models when you're able to deliver both at the same time is kind of this frictionless payment experience that I like to call it, not unlike Uber, where you've already got a payment method stored on file, right? Because they're paying their dues. Are you guys charging them separately or having them pay separately for the one-time charges, or is it no? We'll just add that onto your monthly payment when we go to process it.
Yeah. So what we do, again, a little bit traditional, is we'll do monthly billing to members. So all of the, charges or transactions that would happen within the day, be it, food, personal training session, that just gets billed to their account. And then at the end of the month, they'll do a one-time, ACH or a credit card. Yeah. Obviously, guests and so forth will have, obviously they'll do the transaction at that time that they're there. But yeah, we'll bill to account and then just gets billed once a month.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned you guys are offering credit card and ACH both, right, as payment options?
Right, which is interesting. And one of the things that I think a lot of the high volume, low price model does well, this would be hard with ours because they always want to get points on their credit cards, is the only option is ACH. And that saves a lot of money. So I've been trying to figure out how to do that on our clubs. It's difficult because, the majority of our customers are paying via credit card and they really love the points and the benefits that they get on the credit card. A lot of times, you will offer an incentive, either reduced dues or something, like a gift card or something to go to ACH, but we're sort of, our members are somewhat resistant to that. So if you have no option when you join, then it's never a problem, but we sort of got to get to that. Yeah. That's a huge, in any business, the credit card fees can be huge. Yeah. Right. Can really add up.
Right. Well, and again, if you're talking about $10 a month, the points on a credit card are kind of inconsequential, but you get up there a couple $100s a month where that can actually mean something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, Eric, this has been a fun conversation. You've certainly shared a lot of great lessons along the way. If any of our listeners have questions based upon what we talked about today or want to learn more about California athletic clubs, where can they go?
Our website is caclubs.com. Okay. And you could learn more about the clubs there. And any questions to me, you could just email me directly. My email is eschmitz@caclubs.com. So it's ESCHMITZ@caclubs.com. And I'll be happy to answer any question.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thanks. And thank you so much, Nick, for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, Eric, thanks so much. Again, appreciate all of the insights today. It's been a fun conversation.